Oh yeah, we got to get into the biochemical side of our problems because we have a psychosocial side and we have a biochemical side. And so we have to begin looking at how to help our young people, but also how to help the parents and help those who deal with young people, because you don't just have at-risk youth, you get at-risk families, at-risk neighborhoods. People talk about it takes a village, but the reality is that if the village has been bombed, then we're dealing with a trauma center. And if we're dealing with a trauma center, then we have to deal with it from that perspective and not be so idealistic about it. Let's be realistic about it so we can have a proper start. So Chef Alejandro, along with Quentin Love, he's a foodpreneur, food activist. Some people, you all know him from being the owner over there at Turkey Chop on the west side. He's going to come because not only is he going to show how to cook healthy meals for those who choose not to eat beef or pork, but they want to eat turkey and chicken. He's going to show not only how to make healthy dishes, but he's also going to discuss how to have a healthy lifestyle. And then also, we have from a cultural perspective, we have an artist named Phenom who's going to come to inspire and showcase how you can take hip-hop but use it for cultural elevation and not degradation. And then finally, the beginning of this particular event from 11 o'clock to 12:15 sharp, Sister Geraldine, Brother Dolph, Attorney Louis Myers, Kathleen Bankhead. We're waiting for a couple of others to confirm, Reven Fellows, but we have Harold is going to be up there also, but we're going to have a intergenerational dialogue with the topic, do Black lives matter to Black people? And if so, what are our solutions? So this is all going to happen this Saturday. It starts at 11 a.m., but registration is from 10 to 11. And for those who want to RSVP their slot because seats are limited, you can go to hiphopdetox@yahoo.com. And detox is spelled DETOXX. And if you come, bring your children 12 and up. 12 and up, bring your children to participate in this empowerment session. And this is free to the public. It's free 99.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure I put that out there. But this is Chef Alejandro.
Alejandro, tell us how you're going to keep us from all these years, I mean hundreds of years, that people been eating the good old pork, slapping the pork chops around in sandwiches. But most importantly, will what you have to offer help our children from having salt in one hand, like with a bag of chips, and a pop in the other hand where they're overdosing themselves with sugar? Tell me how that's going to affect our children.
Well, basically what I've done, I've toned it down. I've created a situation where foods that kids are familiar with, such as your tacos, your hamburgers, things of that nature, I've created and turned those into plant-based dishes. Something that they can relate to and not taking too far out the loop where they're uncomfortable eating it. So that's why I kind of bridged the gap with that. And I've created that by doing all plant-based food, that's it. And I'm also going to be showcasing the importance of different herbs and spices that we have in our kitchen that we don't use enough. I call it my own personal medicine cabinet, you know. So I want to go over that and educate our people on how these herbs and spices that we have, how they can prevent health issues, how they can prevent diabetes, things of this nature. That's another segment that's very important to me and I want to educate our people on.
Well, I'm gonna have to bring you back and talk about that because
Let's
there's
do
a
it.
lot
Let's
of
do
people
it.
need to know what's right in their own cabinet that we don't use. It's very important to us.
It's extremely important because a lot of the young people that we work with, we had a 16-year-old at one of the high schools who had a heart attack playing basketball. And the reality is that when you're eating Takis and Flaming Hots and you're drinking red juice and you don't know the chemicals in it, and you're doing it constantly, but you have a bowel movement once a week. You know, these are things that it's like, okay, well, once we know what's going on, then we have to help them to see the value of drinking water, the value that you shouldn't have a bowel movement once a week. It's not natural to have it once or twice every 2-3 weeks. You're supposed to have it every time you have a meal. So again, these are simple things, but it helps us to feel comfortable in our own skin. And when we can feel comfortable with us and like and love us, then it's easy to like and love somebody else.
But you also have to help them learn about those flaming hots that y'all talk about. Those flaming hots, Cheetos and stuff in the bag have the same chemicals cocaine have in it. You have to understand to be able to explain that to them and show them. Nobody should talk about something they can't send the children to see or for them the information. Because whenever I talk to children and let them know, if somebody's talking to them and they can't tell them where to go retain the information, then quit listening to them. As far as him dealing with the food in the ground, his motto should be understanding food that you eat out the ground, keep you out the ground.
Oh, yeah,
There's-
that's the reality.
Life is so simple. You don't have to stretch it out. It's not a lot of big talk and all that. It's real simple.
Oh, yeah. The bottom line is that you gotta meet people where they are.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
care, no matter where, we could be in Shreveport,
Whoever they are.
Louisiana, we dealing with the same issue. We in New Orleans, we dealing with the same issue. Maybe a different
Same
slang.
fight, different city.
Yeah, slangs may change, but unfortunately, a lot of things stay the same. So we just gotta deal with it as it is. But we hope that everybody is able to come. Please come and bring someone, 12 and up, and bring parents, because we really wanna help to rejuvenate parents.
Well, and just hearing everything that you're doing is an outstanding job. You and Alejandro and all of your staff, you guys are doing a great job. What really got you to the point of even doing this hip hop detox? What inspired you to even to put this together and do this?
Well, I'll tell you this, there's a lot of different stages. I've actually been doing this since 19. I was one of those who ran away from home at the age of 14 because I didn't want to listen. I was hard-headed. I didn't want my stepfather telling me what to do. So I had to be part of that process of learning how to sleep on the park benches without getting my behind whipped, or sleeping on the trains and having a bag of clothes because I wanted to go out there and be with the girls. I wanted to drink. I wanted to kick it. So after going through that process and getting my head bumped, going to jail at 15, getting my girlfriend pregnant at 17, and doing the things I did, I was blessed to meet men who had to kind of pull me and tell me, look here, shorty, I'm 6'2" or whatever. Look here, little brother, look here. A dog can get a hard on, a squirrel can bust a nut by making an apple a God's eye. What the hell you doing, man? What's your purpose here? You know what I mean? You just chasing everything around here. You need to get grounded. So I had to meet men to kind of pull me. And as I did that, the work became, you got to give back now because you got spared. You know what I mean? You could have stayed in jail for a long time, but you got spared. Those bullets that went past your head, okay, you was in the wrong place, but you didn't get killed. You got spared, so now you got to help somebody. So that began the process. And I would say in 2002, I was teaching at Mount Vernon Elementary over there in the Washington Heights, now Morgan Park area, they call it. And bottom line is that I met children who confided in me that they was going through serious trauma. An 8th grade girl where she's taking care of her 2nd grade brother and her kindergarten sister, so sometimes she'd have sex with people, sometimes she would sell a little something, but she was confiding that this is what she's going through. So as I began seeing these children in 8th, 7th, 6th grade going through this trauma, I began to see that we can't just have something on an academic basis. We need something that dealt with life in a real way. And so that began the process of us doing summer programs. And then in 2006, we started Hip Hop Detox. And from 2006 to last year, we served over 300,000 young people between the ages of 12 and 24 doing the work we do in Chicago and around the country.
And the reason why I asked that is because of the fact on these shows, I always talk about accountability, responsibility, and transparency. Those are the 3 things that we basically deal with when it comes down to the show. And the reason being is, as I was stating to y'all earlier about the only way I figure we're going to get to the young people, and great job again what you guys are doing. The only way is doing and sharing those experiences. That's where the transparency comes in at. That's where, like I said, you're not too grown enough to let young people know I was basically a knucklehead in a nutshell. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be this knucklehead that I was. But we have to open up and not get to the point of I've never done anything.
Right.
Because if you want to shut off young people, tell them that you've never done anything. The first off, because, and I say transparency, because first off, young people are intimidated of older people anyway. They intimidate. That's first off without you even opening up your mouth.
Right.
They intimidate. So what they need to know is that they're able to talk to you and not feel like, man, I'm the worst person in America. I'm so bad of a person. They need to feel that way. And accountability and responsibility, as Geraldine and Red and others that have been on this program know, I talk about those 2 things because, we have to quit pointing that finger. I remember as a kid, I remember one of my grade school teachers, because I was one of those point the finger kids. And he had me to hold out my finger once. And he says, how many are coming back? There were 3 coming back at me, but 1 going out. Which meaning that you have to learn to be accountable for yourself and not point fingers
That's right.
at everybody else. And so that's where that accountability, and then take responsibility. If you do it, own up to it.
But I
Yeah.
think along with what you're saying, Norman, it's how we do it then.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I've seen older men glorify their bad behavior
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
front of our youth.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to use the mistakes that in other words, what I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like you, Mr. Alejandro, right? When you asked me, when Enoch said, tell him a little bit about you, I started laughing because it's every day that I talk about to the children, to the youth, to the women, that I spent 19 years in prison, that I was on death row. But I don't glorify that. I'm telling you this because I don't want this to happen to you. And it's just like what Norm was saying. If we come clean
Mm-hmm.
with our children,
Mm-hmm.
they'll see that they made a mistake, but that mistake they can step up from that and become greater men and women. But when you glorify that I used to be and I call it for this and that, what kind of insanity are you demonstrating for other people to see and for our children to see? Because if they looking at you where you are now, you know, I used to hear, if y'all don't mind me saying, women when they would come into the prison, I'd be over here with a book and an ink pen writing about it, and they were talking about, oh wow, man, I used to be with the biggest drug dealer it is, but you couldn't buy yourself a bag of noodles inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all a waste. And we do that to our children. A lot of times, I have heard people brag about their bad behavior, but they were bragging about their bad behavior to glorify something that was simply ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't trying to make a change in this person's life
Right,
that
no.
was listening to this. And young people, now, like I was telling you, they'll sit back and watch. And if they don't trust you, they ain't gonna tell you nothing. They're not gonna tell you how you hurt him. I am so proud that those young people wrote those notes to you with those questions. Because now you're penetrating a wall that was up. Now they're asking questions so that they can see
It's
and
love.
find direction. Exactly.
It's love because the reality is that a lot of people can tell the truth, but what's motivating your truth?
Right.
See, if your truth is not motivated by love, where respect and
Mhm.
consideration is at the tip
Mhm.
of that, so then it can hit the heart. But it don't hit the heart if you shooting your truth, but it's about hate. It's
Exactly.
about self-aggrandizement. It's about you saying, I'm the big so-and-so. They're looking at you like, and the sad part about it is a lot of us got so much frustrated ambition in us because we spend so many years trying to get to where we're trying to go and we not there. So if we see anybody like they making any progress around us, we begin to not just hate, it's something that eats inside of us because we like, I wish I could have did this 20 years ago.
Right.
But the reality is that's a blessing you here today. Because since you here today, you can help. Because everybody got life experiences, but we don't experience them at the same time. So I'm thankful when somebody older than me can tell me, hey, blood, I was 45 about 15 years ago. So let me tell you where you at right now. So then maybe you don't make the same mistakes I made, and that's a blessing.
And
Yeah.
you-
And what the thing is, like you were saying, is that you can't get inside the children and give them or talk about the experience unless you had an experience yourself and you corrected that. And like you said, it's not about making yourself bigger. You know, this is what I used to do, this and that, and like Geraldine said, glorifying it. The thing is to come clean with them, then they can respect you, and then you're able to penetrate that wall to get inside to let them know this is not the way to go by our personal experiences. You know, I played professional basketball overseas. I never came back and like, hey, I'm this and I'm that. I know everybody on the ball set, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a group of people on that ball set that we have respect amongst each other. And you speaking about Reeven. Reeven's a good friend of mine. We played high school ball together. He was a sophomore when I graduated.
Simeon?
Simeon.
My father played ball for Simeon.
We-
We were the first champions in
Yes, sir.
1967.
Yes, sir. We followed their footsteps and put it on the map, made it bigger than what it is. But getting back to the real issue, it's good that you got brothers like you, and then brothers like you right here, Alejandro.
He said, "How you
Dealing
doing
with the
like
cuisine
that?"
part of our problem, because you know, you can take thermic, which is just basic curry, and it can stop heart attacks and different other things. You know, so
Well, you know, I also, part of my responsibility is not only to enlighten my people as far as cooking and things of that nature. I have a story myself to tell, and I don't glorify it at all. And it's just a harsh reality, and that's what I deal with. It's, you know, a lot of people, like she was saying earlier, glorify what they did and the lifestyle, but they fail to tell people the near-death experiences, how you got indicted, how your mother fell to her knees and cried when you told you had to go away. And none of that mattered. You know, none of the trips I took across the country or all the jury and all the All-Star games I went to, when my mother hit the floor when I told it's time for me to ride out, and I might not be home for 6 years, but I came home in 4 months, for God's grace. I went to boot camp. But just to go through that and take my family through that, I always tell you, ain't nothing worth that. You know, and you have to, like all you saying at the same time, I mean at different times, you all saying this word, accountability. And it's up to us, you know, to tell them the other side is how I lost my best friend. You know, how I lost my brothers to street violence. 2 of my brothers. One of them on his way to the Olympics. I lost my little brother, 30-0, to street violence. So I can relate to everything they're going through, and they need to know that. They need to know that. And that's part of my responsibility as well, to just shed light on the dark side of that.
And here's the thing about this glorifying business. Number one, people really don't care. In this day and time, people don't care about what you did 25 years ago. They don't care what you did 30 years ago. They want to know about
for the day's ball game.
Yeah, they want to know, how can you help me in 2017? They don't care what you did in 1997, 87, 77, whatever sevens you want to put behind it. They want to know about, how can you help me in 2017 on this day during this time that I have to deal with? Because we have to understand, we went through our different issues, but we went through them in different eras. They can't relate to nothing that none of us have done 20, 30 years ago. They weren't around. So for number one, they can't relate to it. Number two, as I stated earlier, they don't care. They want to know, okay, I'm dealing with this issue right now. Help me. Bottom line is, get to the point. That's what a lot of this glorifying comes in it. It's because of the fact some folks want to relive themselves. They want to relive, and they want to stay in their own glory. It becomes selfish. That's what happens when you. That's what I really believe, that it comes down to being selfish because of the fact they are no longer as young as they used to be. So they want to live off of their past of what they used to do to keep themselves thinking that they're keeping themselves young and still trying to be cool and all of this sort of business. And the reality is, I mean, you're really making yourself look like a clown, because these young people now are looking at you like, really, man, come on. You know, that's where that again, that transparency has to come in at. You know, stop this still trying to be in your glory. Your glory days are over with. You know, you did what you did, and maybe it was fun, maybe it was not. But at the same time, them days are over with. So help these young people so they don't have to deal with it. Help them to have good glory days, so when they get old enough, they can tell someone, hey, I did this, I had fun with this, I didn't have fun with this, but this is what you can do. It's all about passing the torch.
On the educational level, some people legends in their own mind, some people legends in their own time. It's different things for different places, like hidden, whatever they call it is with the 3 women. If our children had knew that a black woman was the first computer, and she was disrespected to have to walk 5 miles to use the bathroom, when they had a math class, it was only for her. It's how intelligent she was and how she counted. When I read that paper when they was talking about Obama being the first president, he's the first president that had 2 terms. The first black president is the 7th guy on the $2 bill that they tell you is a bad luck piece of money. The 7th president is on here, which is John Hanson or Moore. And at the same time, this is the revolution that they had when they met to break from the British. People don't even know what the emblem is on the back of it. Teach the children, help the children, and they'll guide you through the way. It to come from the mouth of babes. Those children wear their pants down, to tell you to kiss where the sun don't shine because they don't know no better. They think that's a thing from the penitentiary, but it's a thing from the South. When you ran, they tarred and feathered you when your pants fall down. It's not that they didn't have a belt. That's why some older men that was around during slavery time don't wear jeans, because there's a slave plantation mentality. But you got to be able to tell those children where it come from when they tell you that it's a style. Wearing your pants down is not a style. And if you come back and you're at the age we are, some of us are, and been through the game, you apologize to those children because you didn't leave them nothing. They respect that. If you respectfully listen to them, they respectfully listen to you because they're crying out. Our people, our culture is suffering in silence. Some could be wrong with us and we won't say nothing to the end.
Absolutely.
Just put this on our minds, what we're saying. When it comes to a lot of the adults, and this is just from my perspective of working with adults, working with young people, many times we wind up having to detox the adults just as much or even more than the young people, because when we say hip-hop, we don't define it by what's on the radio. We define hip-hop as being truth without boundaries. And the detox is to remove the poison. And when you remove poison, you're talking about the lies and the myths and the half-truths. And most times, the adults are so poisonous that we have to go into a clinical process with them to get them to ask themselves a question, which starts off as, what is my contribution to the problems and conflicts and issues in my life? And not lie about it. What is my contributions? Because as you all were saying earlier, it's easy to point the finger, but the first principle is self first, then others. And if I do self first, then others, looking at my problems, conflicts, and issues, and took my contribution off the table, that'd make the table a whole lot lighter. It'd be a whole lot less stress. And when I do that, then I have to look at, well, if I point out the wrong in myself first and acknowledge it, then I can confess it to my God, which gave me the good that's inside of me. And when I confess it to my God will help me to not only be contrite about it and to atone for it and to be really apologetic about it, but will give me the way to repair so then I can ask and pray for mercy, but do the work that will produce it. And a lot of times we can't even get into the process because we so arrogant about our ignorance that our arrogance over our ignorance prevents us from even saying to ourselves, what is the contribution that I gave to this problem in my life? And therefore, we never take it off the table. Therefore, we stay stuck. And then the children just have to keep going through hell because they living with us, going through our hell, and we're extending hell through the generations.
That's right. In short term, what you're saying is what it says in the good book, know thyself. You can't go outside yourself and know nobody else because you don't know you.
That's right.
And when you know you,
Mm-hmm.
you can be able to stand and to withstand any of the ugly arrows that's coming before you or with you. I sit here today and I am so glad that this group is in this room because we all had something to offer to this table. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, we have reached that mark. We have reached that mark where we are trying to help, but we reached that mark where this show is about over. Ladies and gentlemen, this is WYCA. I'm Miss Geraldine Smith, and I bid you good night.
Peace and